Welcome to this session of New Start for the Family. We've covered N. Hopefully you've seen the overview, the introductory session. And we have covered the letter N, which stands for what? Nutrition. And the E stands for exercise. By the way, I'm speaking on the campus of Weimar College and New Start Center. And this is where the term New Start was first coined. It's actually trademarked by Weimar. So if you ever utilize it for commercial purposes, you know that you have to contact us here at Weimar because it is a trademarked term. Your health and happiness depends largely on two things. We can really boil it down to two primary things. What you put into your body and what you do with your body. And the New Start principles are very much related to those two primary things. We've talked about what to put into your body last session. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about what to do with your body. Physical exercise. Exercise actually begins before birth. How does that happen? When the mother exercises, the baby benefits, studies show. Women who exercise during pregnancy improve the heart health of their unborn babies. Researchers found that fetuses exposed to exercise via their mothers had a significantly lower heart rate than fetuses not exposed to exercise. This study suggests that a mother who exercises may not only be imparting health benefits to her own heart, but to her developing baby's heart as well. Another study showed that it helps to normalize the baby's weight. Exercise during pregnancy can facilitate labor and improve the baby's health by lowering an unborn baby's birth weight. The problem with birth weights today is they're actually tending to be too high. We tend to have extremes on both sides. Not enough and too much. And when the birth weight is too high, it increases the likelihood significantly of childhood obesity, which is one of the major health problems. And so the exercise by the mother can help keep that birth weight down so it decreases the risk of childhood obesity. In regards to exercise, if you're pregnant, safest activities are swimming, brisk walking, indoor stationary cycling, step or elliptical machines, and low-impact aerobics taught by a certified instructor. Jogging can be helpful, but it really should be done in moderation and best done by those who are already jogging before they're pregnant. Studies show that the new jarring activity upon pregnancy, in fact later on in pregnancy, could be problematic if you're not used to it. However, there are mothers who run before pregnancy, and they can continue to run and jog during their entire pregnancy, and that actually is a healthy thing. So if you're not pregnant, you may want to participate in a running program now so that it can be that option. You can keep your options open in regards to when you're actually pregnant. Also, you want to avoid physical activities that require you to hold your breath or where there is any risk of falling or other jarring motion. And also avoid exercising in hot, humid weather. There is a word of caution, however, in regards to those who are pregnant. Studies show that when a mother exercises more than 90% of her maximum heart rate, the placental blood flow will decrease. Now that's maximal exercise. And that normally only occurs when you're competing intensely. So I would recommend that you don't involve yourself in that extreme competition side of things when you're pregnant, because there could be a downside to that type of exercise. Now, the slide there actually, or the next video they're going to show from the back. And remember how exercise we talked about begins before birth, but what about after birth? How do kids get exercise? Let's take a look.
Happy boy?
Now, if anyone doubts by design that we were not supposed to exercise, they really haven't seen a baby. This is what we call natural physical therapy.
Yay!
The baby's just moving all around. This isn't just a hyperactive kid. Any kid, when you have them at this age, they just naturally move everything. And that's an important God-given design to make sure that those muscles continue to grow, that arthritis doesn't set in. It's very crucial. And I think it would be very helpful if all of us continued this type of exercise later on in life. But we were, at that point, that kid has no frontal lobe to really tell himself to exercise. It's just automatic. That automatic exercise is an important part of growing, an important part of his mental health as well. But there he is, just going. Well, we could probably go ahead and stop that portion, but a kid is like any kid. Just getting that natural physical therapy. There's no one there telling him to do it. There's no one doing active or passive range of motion. It's just automatic. Now, the Lord knew that once we got of age, our frontal lobe would develop, and it wouldn't be good to sit in a board meeting, doing that automatically. It could be very distractive. And by the way, it's good that kids do it, because sometimes we need to be distracted to pay attention to kids. That's why they're also given something else by design at a very early age, and that is a very loud voice. And so we can notice that when they're in distress or when they're hungry, etc., remember me is what they're saying. Don't forget about me. But when we have frontal lobes, we're supposed to tell ourselves to exercise. It's a crucial part of living healthfully. In regards to exercise, walking faster means living longer. This was just a recent study out of France, and it took a look at your walking speed in 20 feet. And it found it to be predictive of cardiovascular mortality, with those in the bottom third 3 times more likely to suffer cardiovascular death over 5 years than those who walked in the fastest third. So this is just dividing people up by thirds, and the ones that walk the fastest, 3 times less likely to die from cardiovascular disease just as a result of that. In fact, it's now recommended the walking test could be part of a general clinical assessment of those aged over 65. We do vision tests from 20 feet. Now we need to do walking tests for 20 feet. And if they don't get into that upper third, something needs to be done about it. One of the problems with exercise in our society, however, is too much time sitting in front of a television or a screen. Nielsen Company takes a look at how long people sit in front of screens, and they want to know what you're watching so that advertisers can know how much to pay for their ads on that particular program. But recently, the average U.S. household watched 8 hours and 18 minutes of television per day from September 2007 to September 2008, which is a record high since the days Nielsen started measuring television in the 1950s. So despite the internet age, TV time is still up. But if you add this to screen time of the internet, where you're just sitting in front of the internet, or other screen time activities like video gaming, etc., we are sitting at record times, and there should be no doubt as to why childhood obesity is a major problem in our country. One study took a look at it, and it showed the combined effect of high television watching and low physical activity significantly increased the risk for obesity in children and adolescents. There was an additional effect of the TV viewing that seemed to add to the obesity, other than the fact that the individual was just inactive. And that underscores a significant problem in our society. One recent study, published in October 2010, showed that only 5% of Americans do anything vigorous like running, biking, or aerobics on a given day. 5%. And I don't want anyone in this audience to be part of that 5%. So if you haven't done that yet, you need to plan on doing something quite vigorous today and getting that heart rate up and getting those muscles moving. Interestingly, in the same study, people were asked about their moderate exercise. Do you know what the most common moderate physical activity that people said that they do? Food and drink preparation in the kitchen. And so they call that moderate physical activity. Well, I'm glad they're cooking. You know, that can be a good thing, particularly if they're cooking healthfully, that can be a good thing. But I can tell you, if that's the number one form of exercise in America, we have a significant problem. There are benefits of physical exercise that continue to be extolled and expounded on in the medical literature. Physical exercise has been shown to help depression and anxiety. In fact, if you have a significant anxiety spell, just going out and vigorously exercising for a few minutes up to an hour will relieve that anxiety to a large extent. And so instead of just going into panic mode, etc., get outside, get some vigorous exercise, try to get an hour of it, and the anxiety will get better. Depression also significantly improves, but not right away. It takes at least 7 days of regular physical exercise, preferably about 60 minutes a day, before the depression starts to clear, and then it will continue to clear. Physical exercise actually reduces the risk of arthritis if it's the type of exercise that's not going to be jarring on the individual. And even walking will reduce the risk of arthritis. It improves HDL cholesterol. This is the only type of cholesterol we want to have elevated, because studies show if the HDL cholesterol is up and it stays up, you're much more likely to live healthfully to 100 years of age. It's one of those factors among those that live 100 that is consistently up in those that live over 100, and that is that HDL cholesterol. Reduces the risk of heart disease and stroke significantly. It improves IQ in children and adolescents. Exercise is a critical part for brain development, and it will actually improve their test scores. It can prevent or treat diabetes. A diabetic needs to exercise every day because it works just like insulin, but far better in regards to side effects, etc. And it also can prevent it. Reduces the risk of a number of cancers. Cancer of the esophagus, cancer of the prostate, cancer of the breast. The list goes on and on in regards to cancers. Colorectal cancer, significantly decreased as a result of regular exercise. Of course, it reduces obesity. But something you need to know about the studies on obesity. Studies show that it will only reduce the risk of obesity if you do it for a minimum of 50 minutes a day. If you do it less than that, your appetite tends to increase at the same proportion that you exercised. And so you either need to get a significant control of your diet or you need to exercise more. And so 50 minutes or more of exercise is important in reducing obesity. It's a very important treatment of insomnia. If you're not able to go to sleep, exercise vigorously, not right before you go to sleep, but sometime during the day, and studies show that you'll be able to sleep better. Reduces the risk of chronic headaches, whether it's tension headaches or migraine headaches. It can improve chronic conditions like fibromyalgia. It eases some of the burdens of menopause significantly, like the lack of sleep. It may help to preserve memory, studies show. And it can help even treat some chronic pain syndromes. One of the most common excuses I hear for people not exercising is because they're in pain. But if you go to a skilled physical therapist, you may find that there are certain exercises you can do, such as chronic groin pain, that will actually alleviate the groin pain. And so exercise is an important component in regards to that. It increases longevity significantly. The studies that look at this are clear, and it improves your quality of life. You have a far greater tendency to live a happier, more fulfilled life and live to the point where your life significantly improves as you age instead of the other way around. So the question is, if you're not exercising, do you want to get started? And if you're not exercising, one of the things I would encourage you to do is try walking. Brisk walking is a good first form of exercise. we're actually designed to walk more so than any other exercise, and it's a very balanced engineering feat for you to walk. You know, your arms are involved in it in regards to the swinging at the same pendulum length as the legs, etc. It's good to get both arms involved. You don't have to have a walking stick like that gentleman is up there. But get those arms swinging, get the legs stretching, and try walking. And a lot of people put pedometers on to try to walk 10,000 steps. It's an important, a study showed 10,000 steps can be important. We actually, there are other studies showing you need a little more than that, 12,500 to produce benefit. But many people who want to keep fit, there are better ways of measuring besides a pedometer in keeping track. The device doesn't give any information on how intensely they're exercising, whether their heart rate is being raised enough to improve physical fitness or not. In a new study, researchers found that the average walker should aim for 100 steps per minute when they walk. That's at a minimum in order to get a moderate intensity workout. So just count your own steps in 1 minute. Start with 10 minutes of brisk walking, and you'll have 1,000 steps in those 10 minutes if you're doing 100 steps a minute. And even 10 minutes will benefit you to some extent. And then once you do the 10 minutes, you can keep stretching it out and pretty soon build up to 3,000 steps in 30 minutes and keep on going. So I would encourage you to consider brisk walking. It's also important to recognize the more calories expended during your exercise, the greater the benefit. This study looked at calories burned per hour. Walking at 3 miles per hour, which depending on your stride, may be 100 steps. It may not be. It may be less than 100 steps per minute. But that moderate exercise expels, or actually will expend 232 calories in 1 hour. Housework, if you're going about efficiently in general housework, 246. Riding a horse, playing ping pong, gardening are right up there tied at 281. Raking your lawn is at 303. And then if you're golfing and not utilizing your golf cart, but carrying those clubs around and walking briskly, you'll get 317 calories per hour. 4 miles per hour is even more than that, 352. Mowing your lawn with not sitting, but actually behind a lawnmower, 387. Bicycling 10 to 12 miles per hour is going to be 422, which actually ties with water skiing, downhill snow skiing to a moderate level. Those would be doing what we call blue slopes, and snow shoveling by hand, one of the advantages of living in the North Country or in the mountains of the Sierras. And then there are more intense exercises, playing racquetball, backpacking, hiking with your pack, swimming laps, freestyle would be 493, bicycling 12 to 14 miles an hour, or over 500 calories expended, including calisthenics, playing basketball, singles tennis, cross-country skiing. And then there are the very high-intensity ones, such as an aggressive stair machine, bicycling 16 miles an hour, jumping rope, running an 8-minute mile, or even better yet, running a 7-minute mile will expend almost 1,000 calories per hour. But the one that is most intense is running upstairs. If you run upstairs for a whole hour, you'll expend over 1,000 calories. And of course, you got to be fit to do that. And that's one of the reasons why we state start with brisk walking. Remember also interval training. You can do some of these intense exercises if you take a little 30 or 40 second rest once your heart rate comes up. And the reason why that screen shows a watch and a heart rate monitor is because there are devices now where you can get a continual readout on your heart rate. And when it goes past a certain rate, you certainly don't want to get up there at 90%. We already talked about problems if you're pregnant with that, but you'll also wear out quicker if you're 90% maximum. And so you can program it at a lesser rate and it will alarm, and then you can rest for about 40 seconds. And then you can start exercising again once the heart rate goes down by 10 beats per minute. And the rest will count as exercise time. You'll actually build up fitness more that way. And so I encourage you to bridge over from brisk walking to things more vigorous, taking a rest about every minute or two for about 30 or 40 seconds to get the heart rate back down and continuing. And then I would also like to conclude with the neglected exercise that's important not only for your body, but also for your brain. What is the neglected exercise? Working with one's own hands. Studies show working with one's own hand in a real-world 3D environment is imperative for full cognitive and intellectual development, says Dr. Eric Sigmund. With woodwork, metalwork, craft, music, or car mechanic classes dropped by many schools, and children wanting to play computer games at home, the Western world is becoming a software instead of a screwdriver society. And the problem with that is people in engineering school, dental schools, those type of things where you have practical use of your hands, they seem to be clueless in design and being able to do that because they're just used to working on a 2D aspect on a screen somewhere. And they're not understanding things that most kids would understand in yesteryear by playing in a real-world 3D environment. Research is showing that increasing time spent in the virtual world of computers is displacing hands-on play and hands-on learning. 3D learning allows young people to experience how the world works in practice, to gain an understanding of materials and processes, and to make informed judgments about abstract concepts. One of the advantages that's coming out in regards to working with your hands is right in front of the area where you work with your hands is the frontal lobe of the brain, which is the center of spirituality, morality, and the will. And so studies are showing if we want to enhance this area of the circulation, and your success in life is very largely dependent on how well your frontal lobe is functioning and how well you're utilizing it. But studies show it's actually easier to get good circulation to your frontal lobe if you do things habitually every day where you're working with your hands. And so even the 20 minutes of doing the dishes fast, if you don't have any other way of working with your hands, do that. But especially one of the ways in which you can combine a number of the NEWSTART principles is actually by working with your hands gardening. As you notice, gardening was one of those activities that was a moderate exercise activity that helped the heart rate go up. Doing it in a vigorous fashion helps the frontal lobe circulation, and of course it can also help in regards to your nutrition. A garden tomato is far better in taste and bioflavonoids and antioxidants than the average store-bought tomato. And so you can do yourself a big favor by getting into a habit where you're not only exercising the big muscles. I don't want to underemphasize the exercise of the leg muscles because 80% of your skeletal musculature is right there. So if you really want to expend energy, the leg muscles are the way to go, such as stair climbing, etc. But I don't want you to do that to the neglect of working with your hands in some way, shape, and form every day as well, where you can actually not only power up your body, but also power up your mind in that fashion. It's never too late to start, studies show, to get on an exercise program. If you are alive, and if you have a frontal lobe, and if you are able to put into practice information, you can. Even if you're not exercising up to this point, you can get on a regular exercise program. And so I would encourage you, why not begin your NEWSTART today? Thank you very much.